and the street collapsed. So we found out 3 tunnels below the house and underground laboratories. Then it took 10 years to prepare the 16th century basically here, and it was very difficult, of course, to agree how it looked among experts, because we do not have a proper documentation from alchemists, because at alchemy time everything was encrypted, confidential, so we do not have enough information, but we try to restore it how it probably looked like. So this is study from the 16th century, and we will be at the end of the 16th century till the beginning of the 17th century, 1580 till 1612, the reign of Habsburg's ruler Rudolf II, who made Prague the capital of the Roman Holy Empire of German nation in 1583. So Prague became one of the more important cities in Europe. Paris, Prague, Rome, end of the 16th century. The same situation was already 200 years, half of the 14th century at Charles IV's reign, Luxembourg dynasty. He built Charles University. So then it's repeated, but it was only twice in our history. But Prague became again a cultural and scientific center. Rudolf II was very eccentric ruler. Somebody would say he was mad, crazy. He had his problems, depression, schizophrenia, but he was very educated and very interested in art, but not only for aesthetics of art, but he wanted to understand through his art collection and exotic things he had how the universe works. That's why he was also interested in astrology, alchemy, occultism. That's why he was open to debate with other clever minds how the universe works. His main helper was this man, Tadeusz Hayek from Hayek, very Renaissance man, because listen, he was a personal doctor to the emperor, a lot of war, we said, emperor had a lot of illnesses, university mathematician. First in Czech lands who wrote how to make beer, very important. He was able to translate herbarium from Latin to Czech language. So the emperor trusted him enough that he is able to recognize who is a true alchemist and who is only charlatan, because they were attracted to Prague because emperor gave quite a good money for a potential producer of elixirs, philosopher's stone or gold. And he had to catch the tricks of charlatans, because they could use electrolysis, etc. So, but he was able to do that. I think it is very interesting that in Latin, his name is Hagetius, Tadeusz Hagetius, but Hagetius is also name of a crater on Moon. So when you will look at Moon, you can think there is also his crater. So important man he was. But let's look at the portrait of Rudolf II himself. Habsburgs very often had the same face feature, this heavy jaw. So he is covering it a little bit with mustache, but very clever, educated man, but as a young boy, he lived in Spain at Spanish court, and he witnessed torturing of Spanish Inquisition. So he remembered that, and that's why he was not Catholic at heart. That's why probably we had quite tolerant time here, which was very exceptional. And as I mentioned, he wanted to debate with various scholars how the universe works. So many important people came to Prague. One of them was astronomer Tycho de Brahe. Quite close from here is his tombstone at Teen Church, Old Town Square, Teen Church. So you can go there, very interesting. And he was able to describe the orbit of Mars in the 16th century. Emperor gave him a chateau when it's above Jezera. He could work at observatory at Prague Castle. And then Tycho de Brahe worked with Johannes Kepler. Johannes Kepler, mathematician, astronomer, and then described solar system. So Tycho de Brahe died quite soon, after 2 years being in Prague. We do not know still why. Danish experts had suspicion that it was because of lead, poisoning by lead. They exhumed his body quite recently from the tombstone at Teen Church. They excluded poisoning by lead, but they found out a lot of gold in his body. We will come back to it. Other legend, but this is probably just a legend rumor, that he died because of broken bladder. He was invited by the emperor to a festive dinner. He could not leave the table, and then his bladder broke. So we don't know, but Tycho de Brahe recommended to the emperor that he should meet this very, very smart man, Rabbi Lev Maharal. And Rabbi Lev, in contrary to Rudolf II or Tycho de Brahe, lived a very long life, till 96. Maybe he used some Kabbalah secrets to live such a long life in the 16th century. Very surprising. And he met few times with the emperor, which was very unique. That Jewish leader means Catholic ruler. And even, we don't know whether it's 100% sure, but it is with everything, even maybe the emperor visited Rabbi at his house in Jewish quarter, now where Široká Street is. Rabbi Lev is famous for #1 legend in Prague about Golem. Golem, 2.5 meter high, tall artificial being, created by him, Rabbi Lev. You might move here. And there are many variations of the legend. One is saying that he put into his forehead a small ball called Shem. Then this large artificial being moved and protected people in Jewish quarter. One day Rabbi Lev forgot to put it off, and Golem distracted everything around him. So he had to put him into final sleep at Old New Synagogue. Then for centuries people were afraid to go there because there was legend that who will try to be close to sleeping Golem will die. In the 19th century, a Czech researcher went there and did not find remnants of Golem. He should be made out of clay from Vltava. But maybe this mystery will be solved in the future. Maybe it was mentally ill person. Maybe it was really a robot. There are still scholars solving this mystery, but with this house we had also one legend written down, and after 400 years we know the answer. I'll tell you the legend. The legend was saying that in front of the house is regularly appearing smelly, stinky carriage drawn by goats in flames, and then carriage is disappearing towards Old Town again. For centuries nobody knew about it, and it is in all books of Prague's legends. And now, after 2002, we know the answer. So we will need to go down to understand it. We will ask the guardian of the underground, the Prague, to let us in. This is a replica of the library from the 16th century, and for more than 300 years, this was walled up. Here was wall. Nobody knew about it. So use the stairs and
you make
use
a
the
demo
handle.
behind you.
So use the handle. Yeah, and And then here is one step. Tak.
Hanko, prosím tě, já ti tady na chvilku zavřu paní průvodkyně, jestli to tady bude.
Ano, výborně, výborně. Don't worry, my colleagues said they have some guy there, so don't worry. Well, first laboratory, here are more stairs.
Just big snakes, that's all.
So more stairs. Well, we will start maybe with the iron gate on the right. There is a tunnel leading to Old Town Square, below Old Town City Hall, where astronomical clock is. Well, another tunnel is from the end of the room, and that tunnel led even to Prague Castle, Mihulka Tower, where another alchemist laboratory was.
So underneath.
And exactly, at the time, Vltava was not so deep as now, and it can seem quite shocking, impossible maybe, but silver mining here in Czech lands always very advanced, very important for each ruler. So making tunnels from castles, near churches, we have many tunnels here in Czech lands. And I tell you something about how silver was important. In 1412, we have written record from so-called Lands Desk, an official inventory of houses and lands in Czech Kingdom. Was stated that the house, this one floor Gothic house, has value of 30 groschen. Groschen, silver coins. So strong currency, just 30 groschen was enough for such a house at a strategic position, because this house was all the time near Via Magna. Via Magna was the most important European medieval trade route from today's Spain, France, Germany, Nuremberg, near the house, then crossing River Vltava through forts near Klarov today, and then continuing Krakow, Kiev to Far East. So always strategic position here, and 30 groschen was enough for such a house. Well, so we were able to make tunnels in our history. In this first laboratory, they did elixir of eternal youth. There is a furnace for distillation.
I want some
And
eternal youth.
they are sending the energy from the above room, from the study here, because they believe they can gather the energy of universe and use it for making the elixir. We found out a recipe, 25 recipe in Latin, in a small box. I'll show you later on when. And the recipe for making elixir of eternal youth is very, very complex, describing constellation of stars, describing the right pressure, describing at which moment 77 herbs should be gathered as moonlight. And we found out it contains opium. Opium was added for Rudolf II, probably, because he suffered with a lot of pain, and using elixir with opium could help him to feel very good, that elixir is working, and he could feel very good about the alchemist's work. So they could stay on payroll for another month. Well, of course, now when we are trying to make the elixir, we cannot add opium. We are using herbs which we can use now. The main herb is so-called milk thistle, which is herb with strong effect on liver, cleansing the liver, so rejuvenating effect it can have. Let's look at the second laboratory. Making gold was the main task of Western alchemy. For India, China, they were more interested in elixirs, but Western alchemy tried 500 years, from 12th till 17th century, to make gold from base metals. Base metals, mercury, lead, copper, or their alloys, they believe they can change it into perfect material gold. They believe that using philosopher's stone, they can change it to gold. And do not think that philosopher's stone is stone. It is not a solid substance. It is just liquid or powder. And they believed using 1 drop of liquid, philosopher's stone, or a little bit of powder, they change base metals into gold. Why they believe in it so much? Because around the whole Europe always went some documentation. Dobrý den, vítajte česky nebo anglicky? All right, so welcome. They believed that somewhere transmutation was successful, and they tried it again and again because they believed that they need divine energy to it. And when it did not happen successfully, they believe next time it will happen because the divine energy will be with them. But for example, Edward Kelly was successful with transmutation, presented golden nugget to the emperor, Rudolf II. Rudolf II gave him an aristocratic title. And later on, everything changed, and Edward Kelly ended badly in prison. So after 400 years, we don't know whether it was real transmutation, changing base metal mercury, in this case to gold. We have strong doubts. Maybe he had some trick in his pocket, double bottom. But what is interesting, we can't exclude generally that transmutation is not possible, because in 1950s Harvard University experts did transmutation. They changed base metals into gold, but they used methods of the 20th century, radiation. And then the gold was much more expensive than pure gold. Well, but the point is, with elixirs of eternal life, they did not have chance. It is nonsense. But transmutation of base metals into gold, they had slight chance. Maybe in history of humankind, Egyptians were able to do it in the pyramids. Maybe Templar order in the 12th and 13th century. They became so rich. The 1307 French king went after them and basically killed them. I am leaving it up to you. There is many opinions to it, and mystery of humankind. Well, they also believed that they will drink gold and it will make imperfect human body perfect. They believe it can heal everything, panacea and like that. In these other rooms, they had storage rooms for charcoal, wood, because they needed a lot of course, this material for furnaces. They had storage room here for herbs. Here was quite hot, so very effective for drying herbs. And they used herbs also for the pharmacy in front of the house. Was very good alibi for traffic around the house. We have written records that this pharmacy is selling very effective potions, tinctures. They also produce glassware for pharmacy, not only for themselves. They were able for sure to make their own glassware, because Czechlands always very advanced in making glass. Already at the time of Charles IV, second half of the 14th century, they were able to make their own glass. Here, this furnace had to be on all the time, so it was very hot here, and it, of course, needed a lot of wood. Well, that explains why they had tunnels from here to New Town, behind the walls. What I mean behind the walls? For centuries, Prague was divided by 12 meters high walls, of course with gates, and very often near the wall was a ditch with water. It was here, where na příkopě am Graben at the ditch street is. It leads from Square of Republic, where Paladin shopping mall is, to Wenceslas Square. It is still having the name na příkopě, at the ditch. So there was for a century wall dividing Old Town and New Town. I think it's very funny. We have New Town, which was grounded by Charles IV, 1348, our New Town. And at the time, the tunnel there, probably there was forest, so they could move out and in unseen and bringing wood for the furnace.
Is there a vent?
Sorry?
When the fire burnt in the furnace, is
There was the pipe at the end, and it went through the wall to one chimney.
Oh, okay.
They were even able to do it.
Yeah.
What is very interesting that archaeologists found out that there is even one more layer, lower level, and they found out there was probably one more laboratory and two more storage rooms. But they were afraid to make it possible to visit it because it is now still full of water. And in 1580s, this house was built in classicist style. On one floor, another two floors were made in that classicist style. So they didn't know about the foundation, about the underground laboratories at the time. So archaeologists decided not to visit the lower level.
So they kept building floors, and that would be sinking this thing down. Is that the case?
Yeah,
and then,
yeah. And on top of the house are very expensive flats also. So. So, ladies and gentlemen, what time is it? Right, you have like 4 or 5 minutes, make pictures, look around, and then we will sum it up. Thank you very much. Thank you, the motto is as below, so above, as above, so below. So basically, macrocosmos, microcosmos is connected. All is one is all. And now in 21st century with quantum physics, we are getting to similar ideas, let's say. So we should conclude that alchemy was not a witchcraft, it was free science. I hope you are with me, that it was very important era in alchemy. Thank you very much. Have a nice day in Prague. Thank you.